Can you hear me fine?
A little louder.
A little louder? Alright, like this? This is good. Hello, my name is Hudson Samples, and my project is over how history shapes religious architecture, transfers to the U.S. Religious architecture is more than just a form of art and design. It's a collective of history, culture, and political forces over the course of its creation. By comparing cathedrals in France, such as La Cathédrale Saint-Pierre or La Cathédrale Notre-Dame d'Amiens, to cathedrals in churches in the United States, specifically in Oklahoma, such as St. Joseph Old Cathedral, First Presbyterian Church, or the Cathedral of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. It shows that our historical events, cultural values, and technological advancements directly shape religious architecture. Next one. Historical influence on religious architecture in France. French cathedrals have many layers of history due to their age. For example, with Amiens Cathedral, you can go to the next slide. With Amiens Cathedral, it reflects not only medieval religious power, but also later events such as World War I. During the war, Amiens was close to the front lines and could have been destroyed. Because of massive proactive efforts, the cathedral survived and turned into a symbol of endurance and identity. Its survival made it more important, which shows that it isn't just a religious building, but a symbol of resilience. The story of Jean Hachette, who helped defend Beauvais in the siege of Beauvais, 1472, shows how local history can shape the meaning of Cathedral Saint-Pierre. The cathedral is not just a place of worship, but also a symbol of pride and resistance. The way architecture has changed shows the history as well. Changes in things such as window size or structural system across cathedrals like Amiens and Beauvais show how styles develop over time, influenced by historical events and shifting artistic eras. These buildings were constructed over centuries, meaning that multiple generations of people contributed to the modern U.S., or contributed to what these beautiful buildings are today. As a result, French cathedrals embody something that modern U.S. cathedrals can't: historical change over centuries of time and effort. Next slide, please. Historical influences on religious architecture in the United States. Next slide. In contrast, churches in Oklahoma have less historical layer. St. Joseph Old Cathedral in Oklahoma City was founded after the land run in 1889, when early Catholic settlers, Father Nicholas F. Scallon established the first congregation in the city. At first, masses were held in temporary spaces, such as makeshift buildings or tents, before a small wooden church was constructed in 1889 to serve the community. As Oklahoma City grew, the congregation built a larger Gothic revival church between 1901 and 1904 using more permanent materials, like brick. The building had traditional elements like stained glass windows and the central tower, showing European influence, but adapted to local materials and more modern methods of construction. In 1905, St. Joseph Church became the first cathedral in Oklahoma. Unlike cathedrals in France, its development happened over a short period of time. With that being said, events have happened, like damage from the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing and later restoration. The nearby Cathedral of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, established in 1919, shows the pattern of churches being built to match population growth and urbanization rather than the evolution of architectural styles over a long period of time. All in all, religious architecture in the United States shows more recent, rapid growth with a more compact history, rather than layers of history and change over several centuries. Architectural styles, France versus the United States. French Gothic cathedrals were built using medieval techniques like ribbed vaults, pointed arches, and flying buttresses. These methods let buildings reach great heights and include large stained glass windows. At Cathedral St. Pierre, these techniques made walls thinner and created space for windows to fill the interior with light. But aiming for height sometimes caused problems. Part of the cathedral actually collapsed. This shows how builders push their techniques to the limit. Another big difference is how long it took to build these structures. French cathedrals often took hundreds of years to finish. For example, Amiens Cathedral was built over many generations, with different architects adding to its design along the way. Because of this, their style has changed over time, influenced by new ideas and technologies, as well as people's long-term religious commitment. On the other hand, churches in Oklahoma are usually built much faster, often in just a few years. Modern materials and building methods make this quicker. These churches are usually planned and built with speed in mind, so they tend to look similar and focus on being practical rather than pushing structural limits. Next slide, please. Power, politics, and religious role. The size of French cathedrals reflect the power of the medieval church size of French cathedrals reflects the power the medieval church had over the people. These buildings were funded by religious and political powers, such as the government, which shows both spiritual devotion and institutional control. Their size and details were intentionally designed to naturally intimidate and show the strength of the church, as well as spread religious ideas, reinforcing the church's authority over society. On the other hand, American churches are primarily funded by local communities rather than the government. This shows the constitutional separation of church and state in a democratic structure. Rather than acting as these massive symbols of centralized religious power, these churches allow accessibility and community. Their designs represent a shift in religious role, focusing more on gathering and participation than on demonstrating authority. Urban context. Due to their size, French cathedrals tend to dominate their cities and serve as main attractions. Structures such as La Cathédrale Saint-Pierre or La Cathédrale Notre-Dame d'Amiens are taller than the buildings that surround them, reinforcing their strength both symbolically and physically. The prominence of these structures show the importance of religion in church in medieval society. In Oklahoma, churches are more integrated into their environment. While they are still meaningful, they do not define the city in the slightest, which is very different from France. The way these buildings are integrated in Oklahoma reflects a society where religion is only a part of a broader landscape rather than a dominant influence. In conclusion, comparing French and American religious architecture reveals how deeply history shapes design. French cathedrals represent centuries of authority, technological ambition, and historical events. These include construction survived through World War I and local resistance stories like Jean Michel. In contrast, American churches represent more modern values of practicality and community, with less historical layering due to their more recent construction. Ultimately, these buildings act as records of the societies that created them, preserving both their beliefs and histories over time. Thank you so much.